What's up, bro? What's up? Bro, pay attention. A few months ago, I overheard some women talking, and what they were saying, I need you to hear it because it's going to make something click that you've been feeling for a long time without being able to name it. They were saying that men need to be more submissive, that men have so much to learn from women, that they need to understand what women go through and adjust themselves accordingly. And I sat there and I thought about my entire life, and something in me snapped. And here's the thing that nobody is saying out loud. Most men from this generation and the one before it were raised almost entirely by women. Not because they are bad, but because not because mothers are not important, but because the father figure in millions of households was either absent, passive, or completely disconnected from the job of actually raising a son. And I'm not speaking theoretically, I'm speaking from my own life. I did not have a present father figure growing up. My mother raised me. At school, almost every teacher I had was a woman. The values I was taught about how to behave, how to speak, how to interact with the world, they came almost entirely from women. And again, I want you to be clear, I'm not blaming them, not blaming those teachers. They did what they knew how to do. But here is the result. A generation of men who are taught from the very beginning how to be palatable to women, how to be quiet, how to be agreeable, how to not take up too much space, how to make everyone around them comfortable at the expense of their own strength, their own identity, and their own masculinity. And the movies reinforce it, the school system reinforce it, the social media, every structure around us, it seems, was quietly working toward the same outcome. Men who are soft, who are harmless, who have been sanded down until there is nothing sharp left, nothing dangerous that commands respect. And men who are, in every sense of the word, emasculated overall. And you see it everywhere now. Walk through a high school, look at the boys, look at how many of them are emotionally volatile, unable to control what they feel, letting every reaction spill out immediately, swearing and snapping and crumbling under the smallest pressure. And that's not strength, that's the opposite. And that is a boy who was never taught what a man actually looks like. A strong man does not externalize, doesn't scream, doesn't perform his emotions for an audience to prove he has them. A strong man feels everything and controls what he does with it. That control is not suppression, it's power. And nobody taught us about that, because the people raising us didn't know either. And I want to tell you something that happened to me, and I want you to think about whether it's happened to you too. A few months ago, I'm still in the 11th grade, I started pushing back more, not being disruptive, disrespectful in any serious sense, just holding my ground more, having opinions, not immediately folding when someone told me what to do or how to be, becoming in short slightly more masculine. And the teacher pulled me aside and she said, and I remember this clearly, "You were so nice 1 year ago. What happened to you? I'm gonna call your mother." Let that sit for a second. Just because I became slightly harder to manage, I started asserting myself more, and the immediate institutional response was, "This is a problem. We need to call your parent. We need to correct this." And think about what that is actually saying. Think about what the school is actually rewarding. It rewards compliance, passivity, the student who sits quietly, absorbs whatever is given, and never pushes back. The student who is easy and who causes no friction. And what does it punish? Assertion, independence, the refusal to be completely passive, the early unpolished version of a young man finding his spine. And the school system, as it is currently structured, rewards femininity and punishes masculinity. Not saying that to be provocative, I'm saying it because I lived it and I watched it happen to everyone around me. And here's the cruel irony. The teachers who liked me most, who praised me, who held me up as an example, liked me because I was just harmless, like you could do anything with me. Because I had good grades and kept my head down and never challenged anything. I was the perfect student because I had been perfectly conditioned to cause no trouble. And the moment I started to become someone with actual substance, someone who will not just take whatever was handed to him, suddenly I was the problem. And that should tell you everything you need to know about what the system is trying to produce. Now let me tell you the other story. The one from 9th grade, before I moved to the high school I currently am. So when I moved to high school, I was still the same version of myself from middle school. Still a pushover, someone that could be dismissed easily. The bullying I thought I'd left behind, it followed me back. Because it wasn't about people, it was about the version of me I was bringing into every room. And I tried early in 9th grade. I started trying to hold my ground more, to assert myself, to stop being so easy to walk over. And my classmates, guess what, immediately called me arrogant. And I fell for it because the society had spent years training me to respond to that word by retreating. Be nice, don't be an asshole. If people call you arrogant, you've gone too far. Dial it back. So I dialed it back. And they stopped taking me seriously, especially the girls, especially in the moments where it mattered the most. Because here is what I did not understand yet. That word arrogant was just a test. It was not a genuine criticism. It was a pressure test to see if I will hold my ground or fold. And I folded. And by folding, I told everyone in that room exactly who I was. I failed the test. I had been trained my entire life to fail it. And now let's talk about being the nice guy, the so-called nice guy. Because I was one, and maybe you are too. And I want you to understand something that took me an embarrassingly long time to figure it out on the hard way. Women will tell you what they want. They will tell you that they want a nice guy. They will say it directly, sincerely, with complete conviction. Oh, I just want someone who is kind and understanding and sweet. And then you become that guy. You are kind, you are understanding, sweet, available, never push back, never challenge, just bending yourself into whatever shape seems most agreeable. And they friend zone you. Or they ignore you, or they keep you around as the emotional support option while they are genuinely attracted and sleeping with the guy who does not perform niceness, the guy who holds his ground, the guy who has an edge, who by every metric the school and society gave you, he is doing it wrong. And you stand there confused, but I did everything right, I was nice, I was everything they said they wanted. And here's the truth, and I say this without any bitterness because understanding it freed me. What women say they want and what women are biologically attracted to are often two completely different things. They want the excitement of the masculine man. They want the man who has standards, the man who does not fall under pressure, the man who is in a very real sense slightly dangerous, not violent, not cruel, but unpredictable in the way that only someone with genuine confidence and boundaries is unpredictable. The nice guy offers none of that. He's completely predictable, completely safe, available, and complete availability in attraction reads it as low value because everything that is rare and difficult to obtain is valued, and everything that is instantly and infinitely available is not. And this is not woman being cruel, this is biology. The same instinct that has governed human attraction for thousands of years, dressed up in modern language, confused by modern messaging, but fundamentally unchanged. And the system, the movies, the school, the social narrative has been feeding young men the wrong instruction manual for this reality for decades, telling them to be nicer, softer, more understanding, more submissive, and then those men wonder why none of it is working. It's not working because it was never designed to work. It was designed to produce harmless, manageable men, not men who thrive. Now I need to talk about two words that I'm genuinely pissed off of hearing it. This so-called toxic masculinity. And now I want to be precise here because I'm not saying there are no men who behave badly. They are. There are men who are genuinely cruel, abusive, dangerous in ways that harm people around them. That exists, and it's wrong, but that is not what the phrase is being used to describe anyone. You know, toxic masculinity is now being applied to men who hold their ground, who refuse to be pushed over, like they are setting consequences for people who disrespect them, who have opinions and don't immediately abandon them and someone pushes back. And that's not toxic. That is the baseline of what a man is supposed to be. And here's the thing that exposes how backwards this has gotten. A man who does nothing when someone disrespects him, who stands there and absorbs it and smiles, that man is considered good, safe, healthy. The system approves of him. And a man who says that's not happening, there will be consequences if you do that again, that man is called aggressive, toxic. Which one of those men do you actually want protecting you? Which one of those men do you actually respect? Be honest. I think you know the answer. Everyone knows the answer, but the cultural narrative has gotten so distorted that we are pretending we don't. So let me give you a clear example. So someone comes and disrespects your girlfriend in front of you, physically, directly, in a way that makes clear they do not see you as a threat. The nice guy approved response, according to the narrative, is to de-escalate, to stay calm, to maybe say something politely and walk away, to not make it a confrontation. The masculine response is to make very clear, very immediately, that there are consequences for that. Not necessarily violence, but presence, certainty, the unmistakable communication that this person made a serious mistake. One of those responses gets respect, and the other gets walked over again the next time. And I'm not telling you to go looking for fights. I'm not telling you violence is the answer to everything. I'm telling you that being a man means having a line, and meaning when you draw it. And you should never for a teacher, girl, or cultural narrative, not for everyone to feel guilty for that. And this is what I really want to say. Stop feeling guilty for being a man. Say that to yourself. Actually say it, because I think a lot of you have been carrying guilt around this for so long that you don't even recognize it as guilt anymore. It just feels like who you are. You've been told directly and indirectly 1,000 times that your natural instincts are problems to be managed, that your desire to compete, assert, protect and lead, these things need to be corrected, softened, brought in line. And something along the way you started believing it. You started apologizing for taking up space. You started shrinking yourself in rooms where you should have been expanding. You started calling your own strength a flaw because enough people around you treated it like one. And I know this because I did it for many years. And the result was not peace, was not being liked more or respected more or treated better. The result was being dismissed, being invisible, being the guy that nobody takes seriously. Not the teachers who praised me for being harmless, not the classmates who saw exactly what I was, not everyone who looked straight through me. Being harmless is not a virtue. Let me say that again. Being harmless is not a virtue. A dog that cannot bite is not a good dog. It's a useless one. A man who cannot hold a line, who cannot defend what matters to him, who cannot be taken seriously as a physical and psychological presence, that is not a good man. That is a man who has had everything meaningful about his masculinity removed and replaced with compliance. And I went through that. My mental health in that period was absolutely broken, not because of the bullying alone, but because I had no framework for who I was supposed to be. I had been handed a model of manhood that did not work and then blamed for the results of following it. The moment I started building something real, physically, mentally, in how I carried myself, everything just changed. Not overnight, but the direction changed. And the direction is everything. You are allowed to be strong, to have standards, to push back, to hold your ground, to take up space, and to refuse to be managed. You are allowed to be a man, not a caricature, not the toxic version that the narrative uses to justify tearing the whole thing down, but the real version, that the one that protects, that builds, that leads, that is holding the line, that earns respect because it has done the work to deserve it. And that version is not a problem. That version is what the world actually needs more of. And there's a movie from the 90s, it's called Fight Club. And there's a line in it that has been living in my head since the first time I heard it. Like, you know, that character, the main one, Tyler Durden said, "We are a generation of men raised by women." And that film came out in 1999. And when it said that, it was describing something that was already happening, a crisis of male identity, a generation of men unmoored from any genuine model of what it meant to be on. And that was the 90s. Look where we are now. Has not gotten better, it has gotten significantly, measurably worse. The forces that were quietly shaping men into something softer and more manageable in 90s have had 25 more years to work, and they have worked efficiently. The men I see around me in school, online, everywhere, so many of them are lost. Not because they are bad people, but because nobody gave them a map. Nobody showed them what a man actually looks like. Nobody told them that the discomfort of becoming strong is not a sign that something is wrong, it's a sign that something is finally right. And the women who told me that men need to be more submissive, I don't think they are evil. I think they genuinely believe it. And because they too have been shaped by the same narrative. But submissive men are not what anyone actually wants. Not really. Not when it matters. Not in the moments that count. And what the world needs, what women need, what families need, what society needs are men who have done the work, men who are strong enough to be gentle without being weak, hard enough to hold the line without being cruel, present enough to lead without needing to control. And that man is built, not born. And the building starts the moment you stop apologizing for wanting to become him. So let me leave you with this. You are raised in a system that intentionally or not was trying to produce a version of you that was easy to manage, you know, harmless, quiet and agreeable, and maybe it worked for a while, maybe you are still inside it, but you felt something watching this video, you felt it because it's true and because somewhere underneath everything you've been told, you already knew it. So stop feeling guilty for being a man, stop shrinking yourself to fit a narrative that was never built for your benefit, build a body, hold a line, take up the space you're supposed to take up, earn the respect, not by asking for it, but by becoming someone it's impossible to withhold it from. And that's the work, that's always been the work, and I hope I could make your life at least 1% better, and see you next time.